Hello and welcome to Modern Explorer, The Interviews. This is Glenn Norberg, and today I'm going to be talking with Rich Miles. He's a longtime resident of Florence, Colorado, and I bumped into him at the hardware store a while back, and we got to talking. You might recall that back in 1987, there was a BFRO report of a sighting of a Sasquatch here in Florence, Colorado. That report revolved around a donut shop at about 3 in the morning, after midnight certainly, and it's quite a report. And I thought, well, heck, it's a small town. I'll ask around, see if I could find people that have been around for a while that know of this incident. So in asking, I bumped into Rich. I asked him, and he says, I was there. I saw something on Main Street. I was shocked to hear that, so we started talking, and he told me some details, and I was starting to get quite confused. And it turns out that I'm actually talking two different events. The BFRO report happened in, I believe it was October of 1987, I think it was. It was at night, revolving around the donut shop and the CFI ditch. This is an old ditch that runs clean. It's a drainage that runs from the wet mountains all the way down to the Arkansas River. It's about 15 miles long. And certainly animals go up and down that ditch. Rich told me his event, again at the donut shop, again at night, again at the CFI ditch on Main Street there. But his happened early in the year, February, March, after Christmas, maybe January. So they're very similar, but very distinctly different events. You might recall that we did a previous video with Shannon Proud. Shannon had a sighting in the CFI ditch in the mid-'80s, a daytime sighting. You can see the video right here. That event was the third event then. Since then, I have found a fourth witness that had another sighting, but this was much earlier in the 60s. There were 3 kids sitting at night in the middle of the summer over the ditch, sitting on a bridge, just sitting there watching, hanging out. And a bipedal figure walked underneath them, large, hairy figure, walked underneath them, heading south from the Arkansas River, heading south through town and eventually out of town. They watched this figure for a few minutes and it disappeared. It didn't seem to sense them. They didn't scream out or anything. They were just in awe of seeing this. That encounter, the gentleman has declined to discuss it any further. He feels like that window is closed. But I am going to be going to the location at the end of this video so you can see what that looks like as well. So sit back, listen to Rich as he tells his story, and I'll talk to you on the back side. What's your name?
Richard.
Miles. Miles, okay. We're in Florence. Tell me what from beginning to end. Tell me the story that you know that you can tell.
It's not a long story, but I used back in the 80s, early to mid 80s, I was working for the RU2 school district, and I ran the boilers at night, coal fire boilers, and it was a all night job, and I'd want to take a break, so I had a couple buddies that worked down at the donut shop on East Main, and I went down there to get my free donuts on my break, and we were just kind of standing around in there, and those guys were back and forth in the kitchen and stuff, and I'm eating one of my donuts, and one of the guys goes, "Hey, look, there's a girl walking down the street." And this is like, I'm saying 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And we just figured, well, we all went out there and looked out there, and there's this what looked like a guy walking down the street, crossing the bridge on Main Street with a grill outfit on.
What color was the grill outfit?
It was dark, but wasn't a dark brown. It was a light brown.
Okay.
If it had been, I'm sure it was brown, but it was dark. So if it was dark, and there was street lights out there too. I don't know how well it was lit up though. And then we made just a couple jokes about it and thought, well, the bar got closed at 2, and he's probably going home from a big party, and that was it.
Okay. How tall was this thing you saw? Would you guess?
He didn't look like he was under 6 foot.
Under 6 foot. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. How close do you think you were to it?
Oh, we were
to the
across
figure.
the street. How many yards that is? I
Okay,
don't know.
so 30, 40 yards.
Yeah.
Ish. Did you say anything? Do you think the figure was aware of you guys being there? Or?
I don't know. I think one of the guys had hollered something, like, hey, or something like that, and he never turned around or nothing. Just kept walking.
Just kept walking. Okay, walking away from you. Where'd it go after that? Or
we don't know.
You just saw it
he
go out of the light and
headed east on Main Street, and that was.
Okay.
That was the end of it. We just saw a guy in a monkey suit.
Now, why do you say it was a guy in a monkey suit?
Because that's what it looked like.
Okay. The proportions looked like normal, or was there anything particularly interesting about it? I mean, did it look like a guy arm length wise, or did it walk weird or anything like that? Did anything strike you?
Didn't notice it walking weird or anything, or
okay.
staggering or anything.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Walking down the street, like a normal person with a lot of hair.
Now, I asked you this before. Was there anybody in town? This is the 80s. Okay, ballpark. You think it was the 80s. Ballpark, when do you think that was? Was it late 80s, early 80s?
It was early to mid 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Much smaller town at that time. Mm-hmm. Was there any guys in town that you're aware of that would have pulled a stunt like that?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I think that's about it. So
it wasn't Halloween or nothing like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ballpark. What time of year is this? Do you think? You're loading coal.
It was winter time.
Was it before or after New Year's? Do you think?
Oh, it would have been after.
After New Year's.
After New Year's. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, when we are actually getting cold down here. Okay. About 3 in the morning ish.
Yeah, I'd say between 1 and 3.
Okay. And nobody else, just the 2 guys in the donut shop and you.
Yeah.
Anybody else saw it?
Everybody else in bed.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, that's about it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
You bet.
Awesome.
Mr. Norberg, this is about the 1960s ditch sighting when I was a small child. Listen, I'm not interested in speaking with you about it. As far as I'm concerned, it happened many years ago. I just want to leave it there.
Howdy. So here I am in Florence on the CFI ditch. In fact, right behind me, as you can see, is the ditch. This is the bridge that in the 60s somebody was sitting on. There's 3 kids sitting there just hanging out and walking directly underneath them. I'm going to flip the camera around so you can see, but walking directly underneath them, they said they saw a large hairy creature walk 2-legged that way south on the ditch. So I'm going to go down there and show you what this looks like. So this is the old CFI ditch. It's a main one, runs right through Florence. And here's the old bridge that these kids said they were sitting up there. I don't know if they're up on the wall or what, but something walked right down this center. Now, this is not particularly tall. I don't get a lot of details from this story. Oh, there's a couple of deer. I didn't get a lot of details from this story, but that is probably 9 feet up to these rafters. And it's great. In the middle of the night in Florence in the 60s, this must have been very dark and very quiet. So if something was walking up this river, walking along this at night, nobody would know about it except for the kids that are sitting up there. Now, I didn't get a very good description from I actually talked to the witness's friend, and I got a very curtailed, a very short story of it. But again, 3 kids setting up on the bridge one summer as something walked up this ditch and out of sight. And they said it was on 2 legs, not a bear walking. So there you go. So that's the 4th encounter that I found here in Florence. 3 in the 60s, or 3 in the 80s, 1 in the 60s. Well, there you go. Our little tiny town of Florence, Colorado, visited not once, not twice, but perhaps 4 times by Sasquatch in the 80s and even in the 60s, and who knows what before that. Is it still happening around us? I think that it is. Certainly we're finding some oddities down on the Arkansas River. If you have had an encounter and would like to share it with us, specifically in the local area, I would love to hear that, but anywhere in Colorado or anywhere in the world for that matter. Please let us know at encounters@modernexplorer.me. We'd love to hear your testimony and perhaps even put it up if you'd be willing to. There's something going on.